Greetings and welcome to my channel once again. Thanks for passing by once more. And please, if you are new to this channel, coming across the channel for the first time, kindly hit the subscribe button. Please look around, you see the subscribe button, kindly hit it. And if you are a returning viewer but have not subscribed, please endeavor to hit the subscribe button. This will enable you to get our materials in real time. So as soon as we make upload, the YouTube will be able to notify you. So both the ones previously uploaded before now and the upcoming ones, YouTube will be able to make them available on your page so you don't miss anyone. So in this channel, we make study very easy for you, whereby you can just listen. Even while you are lying down, you play and listen, and you get a lot of values from it than stressing your eyes looking at the books. So that is the essence of this video, and the ultimate aim is to assist you in passing your exams, whether you are writing promotion exam or you are seeking for appointment into public service. Of course, you write exam too, so this material is good for you. And all that we do here is as contained in the revised public service rules, which took effect in 2023. So this particular video is the fourth episode we shall be considering on appointment, and is the concluding part of appointment as well. Previously, we looked at general definitions. All was as contained in the public service rule. Then we started appointment, taking the first episode of appointment, where we consider recruitment, then rules for appointments on probation. Then in the second episode, we looked at short-term appointments, transfers and secondments. While on the third episode, we considered posting, acting appointment, promotion, eligibility criteria for the post race, and leaving the service. So this fourth edition is the concluding part of the appointment, and we shall be looking at mandatory contribution to pension scheme, certificate of service, and then schedule for non-pensionable appointments. So this is what we shall be considering in this video. So quickly, please take 1 second and click the subscribe button if you have not done so. Click the subscribe button in 1 second. We proceed. So thank you so much if you have done that. So shall we quickly proceed with the mandatory contribution to pension scheme? So payment of retirement benefits. All pensionable officers shall participate in the contributing pension scheme as provided for the Pension Reform Act 2014. Pension Reform Act 2014. The requirements for pension payment. So these are the documents you will need to produce for the purpose of calculating your pension benefits. So we shall be looking at them. So in order to ensure that officers receive their retirement benefits promptly, departmental pension officers are required to forward to Pension Commission, that is PENCOM, up-to-date record of service of these officers together with the underlisted documents. So looking at the documents that is required for the purpose of your pension payment, your retirement benefits. So A, we have the original and photocopy of gazetted publication of letter of your first appointment, gazette of first appointment. Then the original and photocopy of transfer and acceptance of service where applicable. Then C, original and photocopy of birth certificate or sworn declaration of age. Birth certificate or declaration of age. Then D, original and photocopy of last 4 promotion letters where applicable. Original and photocopy of last 4 promotion letters where applicable. Then E, letter of introduction from the ministry, department or agency signifying retirement and first appointment dates, grade level and step as at the years of last 4 promotions, as well as the current grade level, and step. So letter of introduction from the ministry or department or agency signifying retirement and first appointment dates, grade level, and step as at the years of last 4 promotions, as well as the current grade level and step. Then F, original and photocopy of staff identity card. Authenticated past record of service. H, evidence of IPPIS registration and current pay slip. I, original and photocopy of acceptance of voluntary retirement letter. That is for voluntary retirees only. Then J, evidence of registration with pension fund administrators, indicating RSA pension identification number, PIN. Pension identification number, PIN. So then K, evidence of national identification number, NIN, NIN. L, evidence of bank verification number, BVN. M, pension desk officers attestation. Pension desk officers attestation. Then N, one recent colored passport. O, stamped death certificate. This is for disease officers only. And P, certificate of non-indebtedness to Federal Government Staff Housing Loans Board. That's FGLB. And to any MDA staff multipurpose cooperative society, to be issued by Office of Head of Civil Service of the Federation. So certificate of non-indebtedness to the Federal Government Staff Housing Loans Board, and to any MDA staff multipurpose cooperative society, to be issued by Office of the Head of Civil Service of the Federation. Then processing of retirement. Forwarding of departmental files and other documents not expressly mentioned shall no longer be a condition for processing of retirement benefits. Retirement benefits shall be paid to officers within 1 month of retirement. Benefits shall be paid within 1 month of retirement. Note that. Then assessing contribution to national officers who exist the service assess their national housing funds contributions within 1 month of retirement. So you assess your contribution also within 1 month of retirement. So that is for pension purpose. Now proceeding to certificate of service application. All officers, including those of non-pensionable appointments, shall be issued on leaving the service certificate of service. Official identity card shall be retrieved and replaced with retiree identity card issued by Office of the Head of Civil Service of the Federation. So all officers, including those of non-pensionable, so both pensionable and non-pensionable, will be issued on leaving the service certificate of service. An official identity card shall be retrieved and replaced with a retiree identity card, which shall be issued by Office of the Head of Civil Service of the Federation. Then authority. The certificate of service to be issued to officers holding senior post, that is on grade level 07 and above, requires the counter signature of the permanent secretary of the retiring officer and the permanent secretary, Federal Civil Service Commission. So permanent secretary, Federal Civil Service Commission, and permanent secretary of the retiring officer shall countersign the certificate of service to be issued to senior officers from grade level 7 and above. While for those to be issued to officers holding junior posts, that is grade level 6 and below, requires the counter signature of the permanent secretary of the retiring officer and the permanent secretary career management office. So for the junior staff is their permanent secretary and also permanent secretary of career management office. Then objective. So why do they issue certificate of service? The main purpose of issuing a certificate of service is that it may be a reference covering the holder's public service when seeking other employment. So it can be used to seek other employment after retirement. Then forms. The certificate of service shall be rendered in triplicate. So it shall be rendered in triplicate on the approved forms as follows. So the approved forms for the certificate of service according to the grade level. So for officers on grade level 7 and above, the approved form is Form Gen 58. While for officers on grade level 06 and below, the approved form is Form Gen 58A. So both of them are 58, but that of junior is the A on junior 58A, while senior is 58. Then timing. Action to complete the issue of a certificate of service should be taken in time for the certificate to be handed to the recipient before he proceeds on leave prior to leaving the service. So the action should be timely, so whereby the recipient is supposed to get the certificate of service before proceeding on leave prior to leaving the service. Then adverse comment should not form a part of certificate of service. So adverse comment, it should not be part of certificate of service. Any other issue other than the certificate of service ought to be treated differently, and the officer must have been punished before he leaves the service following due process. So that is on leaving on certificate of service. So next is the schedule for non-pensionable appointment. Schedule for non-pensionable appointment. So terms of engagement. The term of the engagement of the person engaged is X years. So the period is always specified, commencing from the date of assumption of duty. So the term of the engagement for the person is according to the number of years agreed, and it commences from the date of assumption of duty. Then completion of term of engagement. The term of engagement shall be deemed to be completed on the date on which any leave granted to the person engaged in respect of such term of service expires. So taking it again, the completion of term of engagement. So the term of engagement shall be deemed to be completed on the date on which any leave granted to the person engaged in respect of such term of service expires. Then duties. The duties of the person engaged shall include the usual duties of the office to which he is appointed, and any other duties which the government may call upon him to perform. So he can still be called upon to perform another duty, and then the duty to which he is normally appointed to. Then conformity to public service rule. The person engaged shall not, either directly or indirectly, be engaged in or consigned with any other service or business whatsoever, or receive commission or profits of any kind, but will devote the whole of his time and attention to the service of the government. He shall conform to the public service rules of the government. So emolument. The term emolument, where it appears in this schedule, except in terms of traveling allowance, shall be deemed to include contract addition where this is payable under the agreement. So you have 1. Increments of emoluments, if any, shall be calculated as from the first day of the month in which the person engaged takes up his appointment. So the increment shall be calculated from the first day of the month in which the person engaged takes up his appointment. Then 2. Increments of emoluments shall not be granted unless the efficiency, conduct, and diligence of the person engaged have been satisfactory during the year preceding his engagement. An increment shall not be withheld except on the decision or recommendation to that effect by the permanent secretary or head of extraministerial office. Then 3, the salary of the person engaged may be liable to deduction under damage of properties. So then traveling allowances. When traveling on duty away from duty post, the person engaged shall be subject to such regulations with regard to the provisions of transport and traveling allowances as the government may decide. That is, for the engaged person, traveling allowance. When traveling on duty away from his duty post, the person engaged shall be subject to such regulations with regard to the provisions of transport and traveling allowances as the government may decide. Then ill health. If the person engaged is compelled by reasons of ill health, not caused by his own negligence, to resign his appointment, or if at any time he shall be satisfied by a duly qualified health care provider employed by the government that he is incapable by reason of any infirmity of mind or body of rendering further efficient service, the government shall pay such salary as may be due up to the date of such resignation or the date on which a certificate in that respect was issued. So this is person leaving the service on the ground of ill health not caused by him. So if the person engaged is compelled by reasons of ill health not caused by his own negligence to resign his appointment, or if at any time it shall be certified by a duly qualified health care provider employed by the government that he is incapable by reason of any infirmity of mind or body of rendering further efficient service, the government shall now pay such salary as may be due up to the date of such resignation or the date on which a certificate in that respect was issued. Then certificate of medical fitness. A certificate of medical fitness duly signed by a qualified health care provider employed by the government shall be conclusive evidence on the question of whether or not the person engaged was compelled to resign his appointment by reason of ill health within the meaning of this rule. So a certificate of medical fitness duly signed by a qualified health care provider employed by the government shall be conclusive evidence on the question of whether or not the person engaged was compelled to resign his appointment by reason of ill health within the meaning of this rule. Then dismissal. If the person engaged shall at any time neglect or refuse or for any cause except ill health not caused by his own negligence, is unable to perform any of his duties or to comply with any order, or shall disclose any information in respect of the affairs of government to any unauthorized person, or shall in any manner engage in misconduct, the government may dismiss him, and on such dismissal all rights and privileges accrued to him by this agreement shall cease. So in the case of dismissed officer, all rights and privileges accrued to him by this agreement shall cease. So if the person engaged shall at any time neglect or refuse or for any cause except on the ground of ill health not caused by his own negligence, that is unable to perform any of his duties or to comply with any order, or shall disclose any information in respect of the affairs of government to any unauthorized person, or shall in any manner engage in misconduct, the government may dismiss him, and dismissing him no right at all to any privilege. So termination of engagement. The government may terminate the engagement of the officer engaged by giving 3 months notice in writing, or by paying 1 month's salary in lieu of notice. So this is a condition for terminating an engaged officer's appointment. So the government may at any time terminate the engagement of the person engaged by giving 3 months notice in writing, or by paying 1 month's salary in lieu of notice. And also, the person can also terminate his own service. So if the person engaged may at any time after expiration of 3 months. So this is the condition for the person to also terminate his own if he wishes. So the person engaged may at any time after expiration of 3 months of service terminate his engagement by giving to the government 3 months notice in writing, or by paying to the government 1 month's salary in lieu of notice. So both cases, there is a 3 months notice and also 1 month's salary payment in lieu of notice. So whether being terminated by the government or the individual terminating his appointment, but he must do that after 3 months in service. So he must be up to 3 months before he decides he should leave the service or not. And in leaving, he must also give 3 months notice or pay 1 month's salary in lieu of notice. Then liability to make good damage. So in the event of any pecuniary damage arising from the person engaged disregarding or failing to comply with any order, standing order, or departmental instruction, or from any neglect of duty whatsoever on his part, he may be liable to a deduction from his salary to make good the damage or any part thereof, the amount of which shall be fixed by his permanent secretary or head of extraministerial office. Then further employment. 4 months before the date of expiration of agreement, the person engaged shall give a written notice to government stating desire to remain, and government shall thereupon decide whether it will offer him further employment. Then if government decides in favor, he is re-engaged. His re-engagement shall be on such terms and for such a period as may be mutually agreed. Then severance allowance. The person engaged will be eligible for a severance allowance on the satisfactory completion of a tour of service of rate of 15% of his basic salary. 15% of his basic salary. Provided that his engagement is not terminated as under the rule, and provided that he is not in receipt of nor eligible for any other retiring benefits. So he can be paid severance allowance, which is 15% of his basic salary, provided that he is not entitled to any other retirement benefit. Then leave. While leave of absence is not a legal right included in the contract, the person engaged after a tour of service, or if declared invalid before completing the tour, or his engagement is terminated by reason of ill health in accordance with the provisions of the rule hereto, leave may be granted under the rules in force from time to time, applicable to Nigerian officers of a similar grade level, so far as exigencies of the public service permit. So taking it again, while leave of absence is not a legal right included in the contract, the person engaged after a tour of service, or if declared invalid before completing the tour, or his engagement is terminated by reason of ill health in accordance with the provisions above, with the rule above we saw earlier, therefore, leave may be granted under the rules in force from time to time, applicable to Nigerian officers also of a similar grade level, so far as exigencies of the public service permit. So that is that in concluding the appointment. So moving on to the quiz session. So at the quiz session, kindly note your answers. You can put your answers at the comment section before we finally get to see the correct answers, please. Similarly, remember, if you have not hit the subscribe button, please hit the subscribe button, like, comment, and as well share this video for other people's benefit. If it is good to you, it will also be of value to another. So quickly going to the quiz. Question 1. Mention 10 documents required by Pension Commission to process the benefits of a retired officer. So those documents we saw earlier. So quickly put down some of the documents you can remember before we start seeing them one after the other. Just in the next 2 seconds, put down some of the documents you can remember that we mentioned. So you are required to mention 10. So put down the ones in 2 seconds. So thank you. So let's see what you've written with what we have now. So we have 1, original and photocopy of gazetted publication of letter of first appointment. We have original and photocopy of transfer and acceptance of service where applicable. So we also have original and photocopy of birth certificate or sworn declaration of age. Then we also have the original and photocopy of last 4 promotion letters where applicable, and then letter of introduction from the ministry, department, or agency signifying retirement and first appointment dates, grade level, and step as at the years of last 4 promotions, as well as the current grade level and step. Then we also had original and photocopy of staff identity card, and then authenticated past record of service, the authenticated past record of service. And we also have evidence of IPPIS registration and current pay slip. And we also mentioned the original and photocopy of acceptance of voluntary retirement letter, and that is for voluntary retirees only. Then we also mentioned the evidence of registration with pension fund administrators, including RSA. And then we also have pension identification number, PIN. And likewise, we mentioned evidence of national identification number, that is NIN, N-I-N. And we equally mentioned the evidence of bank verification number, BVN. And also the pension desk officers attestation. And then we equally mentioned 1 recent colored passport. So how many of them were you able to get? And we also had stamped death certificate for deceased officers only. And then finally we had the housing loans board from the Federal Housing Loan Scheme, and the MDA Staff Multipurpose Cooperative Society, so to be issued. So certificate of non-indebtedness, please, this should be the certificate of non-indebtedness by the Federal Housing Loan Board, and also the MDA Staff Multipurpose Cooperative Society to be issued by Office of the Head of Civil Service of the Federation, to show that you are not indebted by any means to the government or society as you are leaving the service. Then question 2. Which of the following documents shall be issued to all pensionable and non-pensionable officers on leaving the service? So both pensionable and non-pensionable, when they are leaving the service, which document are they to be issued with? So A, certificate of service and retiree identity card issued by Federal Civil Service Commission. B, certificate of commendation and retiree identity card issued by Office of the Head of Civil Service of the Federation. So know who issued it and whatever they are being issued. Then C, certificate of service and non-indebtedness if applicable. So which document are they supposed to be issued with and who issues such document? Then D, certificate of service and retiree identity card issued by Office of the Head of Civil Service of the Federation. So which document? So make your choice. Now the correct answer is D, certificate of service and retiree identity card issued by Office of the Head of Civil Service of the Federation. The head of service that will issue the certificate and the retiree ID card. Then moving on to question 3. Retiree benefits shall be paid to the officer within that period of retirement. So when is it supposed to get his entitlement as a retiree? So within what period is he supposed to get his benefits? A, is it 4 months? B, 3 months? C, 2 months? And D, 1 month, just as we read there. So can you remember within what period is it to get that? So note your answer before we get down to get the correct answer. Then question 4. When can officers who exit the service assess their National Housing Fund contributions? When can officers who exit their service assess their National Housing Fund contributions? So also, when can they also assess their national housing in exiting the service? So is it within 1 month of their retirement, or within 2 months of retirement, or within 3 months of retirement, or within 4 months of retirement too? So quickly, which of them, when can they get their contribution of their National Housing Fund when they exit service? So within what period can they have that? Then question 5, note your answers. Question 5, the certificate of service to be issued to retirees on grade level 7 and above requires the counter signature of, so remember what we read, who is to countersign the certificate of service for grade level 7 and above? Then is it the permanent secretary of the Career Management Office and the permanent secretary of the Federal Civil Service Commission? Or is it the permanent secretary of the officer and the permanent secretary of the Head of Civil Service of the Federation? Or is it the permanent secretary of the officer and the permanent secretary of the Federal Civil Service Commission? So quickly note your answers. Who is responsible to countersign the certificate of service? Then D, permanent secretary of the Office of the Head of Civil Service of the Federation, and then the permanent secretary of the Federal Civil Service Commission. So which is the correct answer? So quickly, starting from question 3, let's go through the answers now. So question 3, the correct answer is within 1 month period. That is D. D, within 1 month period. Then for question 4, also the correct answer is also within 1 month of retirement. So they shall get their contribution within 1 month of retirement and also get their benefit within 1 month too. Then for question 5, the correct answer is permanent secretary of the officer and the permanent secretary of the Federal Civil Service Commission. So permanent secretary of the Federal Civil Service Commission and permanent secretary of the officer are to countersign the certificate of service of senior officers from grade level 7 and above. So proceeding to question 6, The same way, the certificate of service issued to retirees on grade level 06 and below is to be countersigned by who again? Similar to the other one, but for junior staff now, who countersign that of junior post. So is it the permanent secretary of the career management of office and permanent secretary of the office of the head of civil service of the federation, or is it the director of the officer and then permanent secretary of the career management office, or is it the permanent secretary of the officer and the permanent secretary of the Federal Civil Service Commission, or is it the permanent secretary of the officer and the permanent secretary of the career management office? So quickly note your answer. Who is to countersign that of junior post certificate of service? Then question 7. What is the main objective of issuing certificate of service to retirees? So the main objective of issuing certificate of service to retirees, is it that it may be used to protect the holder in the society, so protect them so everybody knows that they are retired, or B, it may be used to get benefits from the government as senior citizen, or C, it may be used as a reference covering the holder's public service when seeking other employment, or D, it may be used to process the holder's entitlements on retiring. So quickly, your answers, have you put them down before we quickly get to see the correct answers? So, a second, quickly. So good, we proceed to get the correct answer. For the question 6, certificate of service issued to retirees shall be signed by the permanent secretary of the officer and as well as the permanent secretary of the career management office. That is option D. While question 7, the correct answer is that it may be used as a reference covering the holder's public service when seeking other employment. So the holder can use it while seeking other employment. So that is the main purpose of issuing certificate of service. So proceeding to question 8, the certificate of service is rendered in how many copies? So how many copies is it rendered? So we saw it previously. So is it in duplicate, in quadruplicate, in triplicate, or in replicate? So in how many copies is it rendered? Note your correct answer. Then question 9, name the approved forms for certificate of service of the following categories of officers. So the approved form number. So A, that is 1, is for grade level 6 and below. So what is the approved form number for grade level 6 and below? Then II for grade level 7 and above. So quickly note your answer, the approved form. So is it from Gen 558A, then Form Gen 66, Form Gen 58, and Form Gen 56. So for each of them, for junior post and senior post, which is the correct approved Form Gen for them? So question 10, which of these is not applicable in regard to a certificate of service? Which is not applicable in regard to a certificate of service? So we have A, adverse comments should not form a part of certificate of service. B, any issue other than the certificate of service ought to be treated differently. So which of them is not applicable? Then C, to be handed to the recipient before he proceeds on leave prior to leaving the service. To be handed to the recipient before he proceeds on leaving the service. Then D, certificate of service is issued within a month after retirement. So which of them is not applicable? Quickly, your answers in the next few seconds will get the correct answers for each. So ready, go. So the answer for question 8 is in triplicate. That is option C. So it's rendered in triplicate. Then the name of the approved form for junior post, that is GO6 and below, is Form Gen 58A. So for 9I, the correct option is A, Form Gen 58A. Then for 9II, that is for grade level 7 and above, the correct form is Form Gen 58, that is C. So that is it. We saw that both of them are Form Gen 58. But the only difference is that of junior has A, while that of senior is just 58. Then question 10. So which of them is not applicable to the certificate of service? We saw adverse comment. Of course, the adverse comments, as we read, should not be there. Whatever the person has done must have been treated before then. Then any issue other than certificate of service ought to be treated the certificate of service, correct. Then to be handed to the recipient before he proceeds. Yes, that was what we saw too. So all of them are applicable. Then D, certificate of service is issued within a month after time. No. So the correct option that is not applicable is option D. So moving forward, because we can see that, as we read, that the certificate of service is supposed to be issued to them prior to proceeding on the retirement leave. So here is saying within 1 month of retirement. So the correct option that is not applicable is option D. So moving to question 11. Which of this is not true about the engagement of a non-pensionable officer? So which is not true about the engagement of a non-pensionable officer? Is it A, the term of engagement is as specified in the agreement document. Then B, the commencement date of the engagement is the date of assumption of duty. So which is not true about the engagement of a non-pensionable officer. Then C, the duties of the person engaged shall include the usual duties of the office to which he is appointed and any other duties which the government may call upon him to perform. So quickly, which is not true about him. Then D, the engaged person can engage in any other service or a business as a substitute. So which of these is not applicable as far as a non-pensionable officer is engaged? Then question 12. All are applicable to the increment of emolument for a person engaged on a non-pensionable appointment except. So all this one now applicable except which one? So A, increments of emolument can only be granted only if the efficiency, conduct, and diligence of the of the person engaged have been satisfactory during the year preceding his engagement. Is that applicable or not? Then B, increment of emolument is calculated from 1st January of the year. Was that what we saw when we are treating that? Then C, an increment shall not be withheld except on the decision or recommendation to that effect by the permanent secretary or head of the service. Did we say anything like that while going through that? Then D, increment of emolument is calculated from the first day of the month the engaged person takes up his appointment. So which of these is not applicable to? So quickly, your answers, are they ready? Before we see the correct answers for 11 and 12. 1 second, 2, 3 seconds. Okay, good. For question 11, the correct answer is the engaged person can as well be engaged in any other service or the business as a substitute, which is very wrong. It is not part of the engagement. So the answer, that is 11, is D. The correct option is D. So this is not applicable. Then why for question 12? So question 12, increment of emolument is calculated from 1st January. No, we saw that his increment is calculated from the first day of the month. From the first day of the month his appointment commences, and not from 1st January of the year. So the option is B. Then question 13. When an engaged person is compelled to resign by the reason of health satisfied by a duly qualified government health care provider that he is incapable by reason of any infirmity of mind or body of rendering further efficient service, government shall A, pay. So what shall the government do when such situation happens? Shall pay such salary as may be due to the may be due up to the date of which resignation or the date on which a certificate is in that respect is issued. So it says shall the government pay such salary as may be due up to the date of such resignation or the date on which a certificate in that respect is issued, or B, shall not pay the salary for the month of such resignation or the date on which a certificate in that respect is issued. So government shall not pay the salary. So which of them is applicable? C, government shall pay a half salary as may be due up to the date of such resignation or the date on which a certificate in that respect is issued. Or shall government pay half of the salary then to that date? Then D, shall pay the subsequent 1 month salary only up to the date of such resignation or the date on which a certificate in that respect is issued. So which of them is applicable? So when an engaged person is compelled to resign by reason of ill health, which is certified by a duly qualified government health care provider, that is incapable by reason of any infirmity of mind or body to render for that efficient service. So which of them is applicable? So your answers before we see the correct answer first. Then question 14. Which of the following is correct about a dismissed engaged person? Which is correct about a dismissed engaged person? A, all rights and privileges accrued to him by the government shall be paid. So shall he be paid all rights and privileges? B, all rights and privileges accrued to him by the agreement shall cease. Shall every right be seized? Then C, the engaged person receives only repatriation allowance. And D, only the retirements by rights are paid, excluding the privileges. So which of them is correct about a dismissed engaged person? So quickly, your answers for question 13 and 14. 2 seconds. So good. The correct option for question 13 is shall pay such salary as may be due up to the date of such resignation. The salary that is due up to the date of such registration or the date on which a certificate in that respect is issued. So that is option A is the correct answer. So the government must pay the salary, up to the date of such registration or up to the date on which a certificate in that respect is issued. Then question 14, the correct answer is all rights and privileges accrued to him by the agreement shall cease. So every dismissed officer ceases every right and privilege. He loses every right and privilege. Nothing is paid to him. Question 15, an engaged person can be dismissed at any time by any or all of the following reasons except. An engaged person can be dismissed at any time by any or reasons except A, neglect or refusal to perform any of his duties, not out of ill health caused by him. So condition whereby he can be dismissed. Then B, disclose any information in respect of the affairs of government to any authorized person. So which of them can cause his dismissal or which cannot cause? Then C, if he accepts and engages in performing another staff duties not meant for him. And D, comply with any order or engagement or engage in misconduct. So comply with any order or engage in misconduct. So which of this one will not cause him to be dismissed? So which of them will not cause, because it says an engaged person can be dismissed at any time by any or all of the following except. So which of them will make him not to be dismissed? So note your answers. Then question 16, an engaged person may at any time terminate his own appointment, that is, terminate his engagement after expiration of dash of service. So when can an engaged person be permitted to terminate his engagement if he so wishes? A, is it after 4 months? B, is it after 2 months? C, is it 3 months? Okay, so C and D are the same thing. 3 months, 3 months. So notwithstanding, so we have 3 months, 3 months on C. Then A is 4 months, B is 2 months. So quickly, the correct answer for question 15. So an engaged person can be dismissed at any time by any of all of these, except C, if he accepts and engages in performing another staff duties not meant for him. This will not cause him to be disengaged, but to be dismissed. But every other options, every other ones can cause his what? Dismissal. Then why for question 6? So an engaged person may at any time terminate his engagement after expiration of 3 months, was what we saw. 3 months. So that is either option C or D. Both of them are 3 months. So going further to question 17. An engaged person can terminate his appointment by, so how can he terminate his own appointment? A, given to the government 2 months notice in writing or paying to the government 1 month salary in lieu of notice. B, give 3 months government 3 months notice in writing or paying to the government in 1 month salary in lieu of notice. C, giving to the government 3 months notice in writing or paying to the government half a month's salary in lieu of notice. So how can he terminate his engagement? Then D, paying to the government half a month's salary in lieu of notice. So which of them? Note your answer. Question 18. The government may at any time terminate the engagement of the person engaged by, so how can the government also terminate? A, given to the engaged person 3 months notice in writing or paying to the engaged person 1 month salary in lieu of notice, or paying to the engaged person half a month salary in lieu of notice, or giving to the engaged person 3 months notice in writing or paying to the engaged person half a month salary in lieu of notice. So which is applicable? Then D, giving to the engaged person 2 months notice in writing or paying to the engaged person 1 month salary in lieu of notice. So questions 17 and 18, they are similar questions. So one is on part of the engaged person, the other one is on part of the government. So which is applicable? I think from what you saw before, but their reasons are the same thing on both sides. So the correct option for question 17, so he has to give 3 months notice or pay 1 month salary in lieu of notice. So that is option B, 17. So give the government 3 months notice or pay 1 month salary in lieu of notice. I think the same thing is also applicable to the government in the other way around. So the government will also give to the engaged person 3 months notice in writing or pay to the engaged person 1 month salary in lieu of notice. So the same condition holds for the two of them, apart from the fact that for the engaged person to terminate, he must have served for 3 months. Then question 19, the person engaged may be liable to a deduction from his salary to make good the damage or any thereof in the event of any pecuniary damage arising from any of the following except, so A, disregarding or failing to comply with any order. So in what circumstance will he not be taxed to replace what he damaged? So B, accidental discharge. C, non-compliance with departmental instruction. And D, any neglect of duty whatsoever on his part. So which of these made the government not tax him to make good what he damaged? Then 20, the amount of deduction from the engaged person from the engaged person's salary to make good the damage caused by his negligence is to be fixed by, so the amount of deduction from the engaged person's salary to make good the damage caused by his negligence. By his negligence is to be fixed by, so who fixes the amount to be paid? So is it his immediate supervisor, or his head of department, or the relevant committee in the MDA, or his permanent secretary or head of extraministerial office? So who fixes the amount to be deducted from his salary to make good the damage caused by his negligence? So note your answers. So question 21. An engaged person will be eligible for a severance allowance on the satisfactory completion of a tour of service at the rate of dash. So at what rate is that calculated? The severance allowance calculated. Then provided that he is not in receipt of nor eligible for any other retiring benefit. So what is the rate of calculating his allowance? Is a severance allowance. So quickly, the answers from 19, you have yours down, so we look at the general one. So quickly, the option number 21, the options we have: A, 15% of his annual salary. So is that the rate that will be used to calculate? Then B, 15% of his total emolument. Then C, is this 15% of his basic salary? And D, 20% of his basic salary. So which of them is correct in calculating the severance allowance? So quickly, the option for number 19 is B, in B, accidental discharge. So it's when the damage is not caused by him, but if it's caused by his negligence or whatever, or not compliance to rules and whatever, he is taxed and paid. And then of course, the person responsible for fixing the amount to be deducted from his salary is his permanent secretary or head of extraministerial office. That is option D. So for 20, option D, his permanent secretary is responsible to fix the amount. And then for 21, the calculation of his severance allowance is based on 15% of his basic salary. That is option C. That was what we saw, 15% of his basic salary. So that takes us to question 22. An engaged person who desires to remain in his employment at the end of the expiration of his current engagement shall give a written notice to the government stating his desire to remain not later than, this should be done, THAN. So quickly, when is he supposed to render the letter to notify the government that he wants to remain in service? Is it A, 4 months before the expiration of agreement, or B, 3 months before the expiration of agreement, C, 2 months before the expiration of agreement, or D, 1 month before the expiration of the agreement? So at what period is he required to render his letter to show his desire to remain in service before government decide whether to approve or not? Then Y23 says, why leave of absence? Why leave of absence is not a legal right included in the contract. The person engaged may be granted in the following conditions, except, so even though it's not a right, but it can be granted, but except a particular condition. So what condition that may make him not to be granted? So A, after a tour of service. B, if declared invalid before completing the tour. C, if his engagement is terminated by reason of ill health in accordance with the provisions of the rule. Then D, his engagement is terminated by reason of reorganization. So which of them is the correct answer? Quickly, your options noted. So seeing the correct answer, number 22, he has to submit the letter within 4 months before the expiration of the agreement. That is option A. While for question 23, his engagement is terminated by reason of reorganization. So if it's terminated by reason of reorganization, there is no issue of leave of absence. That is option D for 23. So thank you for staying by, and thank you for coming this far. So kindly, if you are still yet to subscribe, please at this moment hit the subscribe button hit the subscribe button. Hit the subscribe button. Also like. Let's have your comments, please. Your comments are very, very necessary to us. So if there's anywhere we have to adjust or whatever, plus or minus, please notify us. And also share this material for other people's benefit. It will not cost you anything. You get this material free. Also share for other people's benefit. Because the aim of this video is to assist you in passing your exam, to make the reading very easy. Then the next topic we shall be looking at is what? Discipline. Our next topic is discipline. So please ensure that you subscribe so that immediately the next topic is uploaded, you get it in real time. Subscribe so that you can get our materials in real time. Thank you so much, and God bless you. So see you in the next video. See you in the next video. Ensure to subscribe and make this material available to your friends as well. If it is of value to you, it will also be of value to them.